Hello and welcome to EcoElsa. Welcome back, my returners, and if you're new and don't know me, make sure to subscribe down here below because I am Elsa, the founder of EcoElsa, and we are here to help you guys learn about the environment and find fun ways of getting outdoors. On today's episode, we have Mikayla Raines here from SaveAFox Rescue. She is the founder and executive director of SaveAFox Rescue, which is all focused on foxes. She's here today to help talk about fox rescue, answer some of your guys' questions about owning a fox, as well as to talk more about running an animal sanctuary rescue. So, Mikayla, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hey guys, I'm Mikayla Raines, like she said, the founder of SaveAFox Rescue. So what we do here is we work with specifically captive exotic animals, specifically foxes. So these are foxes that come from fur farms or pet surrenders. So none of these animals are coming from the wild. They're all coming from the pet trade of some kind or fur farming. And then we rescue them, we rehab them, rehabilitate them, and then we get them ready to go to other qualified homes like educational centers and sometimes personal homes as well.
How did SaveAFox Rescue get started? What's kind of your ultimate goal for it coming up here into the future?
So SaveAFox got started kind of accidentally. I never planned on starting a fox rescue. It honestly just like snowballed into this huge operation. I've always had a passion for wildlife. I grew up as an only child, even though I do have older siblings. They're like 20 years older than me. So I was the only kid in the home. I spent a lot of time outdoors with wildlife, wild animals, feeding raccoons and squirrels and what have you. And I knew I wanted to work with animals. I started off going to college for vet tech because I didn't really know what else to do. When I first fell in love with foxes, or when I first found my love for foxes, I was volunteering doing wildlife rehabilitation. And I had a project. I had a orphan gray fox to bottle raise, and this was my first fox experience. And this fox, I absolutely fell in love with him, and that's what started everything, to be honest. I knew from that point that I wanted to have foxes in my life. I never thought that there was a career in it because at that time, fox rescue wasn't really a thing. I still didn't know of many fox rescues until I started SaveAFox Rescue, and then other people kind of followed, which is good because we needed more people doing this because there isn't a lot out there. So after rehabbing that orphan gray fox, knowing I wanted foxes in my life when I turned 19, I bought a pet fox. At the time, I didn't know rescue was possible. I didn't know I could rescue fur farms. I didn't know how huge the exotic pet trade was. So having that first pet fox, posted him on social media all the time. People started to follow that. They loved seeing how I cared for him. They loved seeing the relationship I created with that fox. And it was at that point that people started coming to me and saying like, hey, Mikayla, I bought this pet fox from a breeder. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I realized I can't handle it. I see how you are with your fox. Can you please take mine? So this started happening a lot. And that's when I had to go and look in and see like, okay, what kind of permits do I need to actually make this like an operation? Because people started donating money before we were even a nonprofit. So it was hugely my fans that kind of pushed me in the direction, because I had that small fan base from my first pet fox. And then just a lot of people jumped in and were like, Mikayla, we heard of another fox. It's like, in Utah that's being tortured or something like that. Like there's just all sorts of people reaching out, trying to get these foxes rescued and contacting me about it. So I got all of the permits I needed to start the fox rescue, which for Minnesota specifically was a DNR captive wildlife license, a DNR exhibitor license, and then a federal USDA license. And then I have to have a permit within my county to allow me to do what I'm doing within this district. So that's how it started.
Wow, that's a lot to take on, and you were taking this all on, I understand, while you were in college, right?
Yeah, I did end up dropping out of college because the fox was a lot of work. When I got my pet fox, I was in college at the time, and it was funny because like at that time, my mom was like, when I told my mom, I was like, I can't do college, it's too difficult for me. Schooling was always really hard for me. I'm not good at school. I'm not good at test taking. I'm not good at writing or reading. That's just not my skill. So when I told my mom I was dropping out of college, and I was like, my pet fox is too much work, Mom. I have to drop out. I can't do college anymore. And I was on a scholarship too, so I was getting a free ride anyways. And my mom was like, what are you gonna do with your life? You can't just have foxes and make a living off it. Well, here we are. So I guess like the learning thing about that is if you have a dream, if you have a goal, and it's something you're really passionate about, stick with it, because passion is what gets you like the furthest in life. If you have something that you're passionate about, like 100%, don't listen to what anybody tells you. Just go for it.
I relate to that so hard because I was someone who I loved school and going to school, but my family was always like, hey, you really like science and you really like diseases and stuff. You should go into medical. And I'm like, I can't be inside all day. I need the outdoors.
I'm the same way. In school, even like, elementary through high school, whatever, if the day was nice outside and there was a window in the classroom, I could not focus because I'm like, Minnesota doesn't have nice days all the time. If I'm indoors and it's nice out, I'm going to be super anxious. Like I have to be outside. So
and that's why I related to environmental ed so much. And it's funny though, because I was finally starting to have like some success as an environmental educator in the field. And I loved what I was doing, but I was still bouncing around all the time. So then I told my parents, hey, I'm starting my own environmental ed business, YouTube channel and blogs and stuff. And my parents are like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And now it works. I mean, through COVID, it's interesting, but yeah, you're exactly right. Follow your passion. I really love that and relate to it so much. So now you got this SaveAFox rescue going. It sounds like you guys are opening up a second one in Florida too.
Yes, so we are working on opening a second location in Florida. It's been a long process, especially with COVID-19, like everything is on hold. We can't do anything right now. So we're kind of waiting for this whole thing to blow over and then we'll get back working on that. But we do currently have property. We just don't have anything built or anything started, and we still have to get all the permits for there. So it's gonna be a while, but it's gonna happen.
Eventually, right? You throw enough stuff at the wall, eventually the wall budges, right?
That's what we're hoping.
Okay. So going forward, it looks like you guys are just looking to expand. That way you can take in more species of foxes is what it sounded like, correct?
Right. So the reason a lot of people have asked why we chose Florida and why we haven't chose like other places up in the Midwest area, like where we are now. And it's because we need another location that it is like constantly warm out. And this is for like desert fox species like bat-eared foxes, fennec foxes, pale foxes. These are other foxes that are in the pet trade, not in fur farming, thankfully, but they are in the pet trade, and we're not able to take them here in Minnesota because it's too cold for them here. And another reason we chose Florida is because the rules and regulations for owning exotics makes it really easy for us to start another sanctuary there. It's very welcoming when it comes to tourism, and we're going to be open to the public, so it's going to be really good for us for giving tours because a lot of people go to Florida to vacation. So that's why we chose Florida.
Yeah, sounds like a complete win-win-win. So you guys have, like you said, a ton of sponsors and people that are helping support you, and they're the ones who make a lot of these projects available and allow you to do all the work that you do. What have been some highlight projects that you've been able to do with helping foxes in the exotic pet trade because of thanks to your sponsors and the people who are supporting you?
Well, I definitely don't do this alone, and I couldn't do it without my team. This has gotten big enough where I need to have a team. So we have like our project manager that helps like put together fundraisers and events. We did a yoga with foxes last year, which was a huge hit. Everybody came out with their yoga mats, and the foxes were running around and running through them, and we had a yoga instructor. So I wouldn't have been able to do that event if I didn't have all these helpers and volunteers to help put it together. And then, of course, the fox sponsors are super beneficial because every one of our animals here gets a sponsor, and that sponsor kind of helps with that particular animal's monthly necessities. So like their feeding and their housing and their vaccinations. And then whenever there's any sort of situation like a broken leg or something completely unexpected, which happens all the time with animals, then that's when we kind of do our crowd fundraising. So we reach out to all of our followers and they help pitch in. I couldn't do it without the followers because I definitely didn't go into this having any money. So huge shout out to everybody that follows SaveAFox and like makes this possible, because I couldn't do what I love without them supporting it and also helping me rescue these animals.
So before we get into talking more about the exotic pet trade, and as far as people who are looking to get foxes, what else can people do to help support SaveAFox Rescue? Where should they go to check more out about you guys, especially during COVID, since you are probably not doing too many in-person tours right now?
Right, so we are closed to the public right now when it comes to tours, but definitely follow our social media pages. We have social media everywhere. We're on TikTok. We just reached 1 million followers on TikTok. We have 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, around 400,000 on Facebook, and 300,000 on Instagram. So just link it in there somewhere. We have a bunch of social media you guys can follow, so definitely support us that way. Even if you can't donate, it always helps just sharing our page. If you just share our social media, bring us more followers, like that's doing something. So just follow.
Yeah, it's so easy to do, right? And plus
Right,
they get
is.
lots of cute fox photos and videos and stuff.
Right, we do super fun things with the foxes. So I post videos of like doing training with the foxes. Some of our foxes love to do tricks, so I'll do videos like that. I try to do at least one educational video a week, so just kind of answering people's questions, like what we feed them and how we put them away at night, and just really anything anyone asks.
I know a lot of you guys are struggling through this, and it's important to make sure we don't lose our sanctuaries, because unfortunately I have a feeling after this or even during this, a lot of people are going to be looking to rehome a lot of animals. That's what I don't know if you watched it. It came out yesterday, Bears Etc. with Katie Krause. Her and I have been talking about that a lot, that after this, there's going to be a lot of those roadside zoos going under, and it's not going to be good because there's not enough sanctuaries for them.
Right. It is really hard in the rescue world because there's not many of us. And what makes it really hard too is, unfortunately, a lot of rescue situations, and this is where rescues have to be really careful. Some rescues end up turning into a hoarding situation. We recently did a rescue in New York. We rescued 30 foxes that were being hoarded. And those of you that don't know, like, the definition of hoarding, it's just, a lot of times people kind of confuse it with somebody purposely like taking in a bunch of animals to like neglect them. But half of the time it's people that have a good heart or a good mindset, and they get overwhelmed, and then they have too many animals that are in bad conditions. So we did a rescue from another rescue in March, and it was 30 foxes that these people rescued from a fur farm, but they didn't have the right supplies or anything to take care of them, so they were being kept in not very good conditions. And you know, we were able to rescue them all and get them to other rescue locations, thankfully. But that's another really hard thing, is like a lot of rescues don't have funding, so
yeah,
there needs to be more good rescues out there, and we're definitely lacking in them. So hopefully we'll be able to set up with that Florida location fairly quickly as soon as COVID is over with.
Yeah, it's definitely not been a very easy world with all this going on. So
no,
okay.
not at all.
Well, jumping then into kind of our next section, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the exotic pet trade, since foxes are a part of this. For my personal part, when I was in college was when foxes were first starting to get really, really big. And I noticed a lot of my, I had a lot of friends who were like, oh, I'd love to get a fox. And I said, they haven't been quite domesticated for that long. There's probably a lot of things going on that people don't know about yet. And what I've seen from your page is you guys talk a lot about this. So as far as the exotic pet trade goes, foxes are obviously very cute. They're very charismatic. They can be very silly and goofy and fun. So there's a lot of people out there who are getting them. What should people know about the exotic pet trade when it comes to foxes, as well as maybe some of the quirks of the species if they want to have one?
It's really interesting what you just said about them not being like fully domesticated, and you're 100% spot on with that. Since I've worked with like wild orphan foxes and also like orphan baby domestic foxes, there's honestly no difference when it comes to their like behaviors and their instincts, and it's very sporadic. Sometimes you get an orphan baby, or like when I was doing wildlife rehab, definitely never take any babies from the wild and try to make it a fox, people. You can only rehab wildlife if you have a permit to, and in the past I did. And when I auto raise these orphan babies, sometimes, right away they'd have those like wild instincts and they'd be super skittish. And other ones, it took some time to kind of like get them to not be so attached to me. And it's the same with the domestic pet foxes. I've had domestic pet foxes in a litter that, I had a brother and sister once, and the brother fox, or the boy fox, super affectionate, grew up to just like love people, just love to socialize. I raised both of these babies exactly the same. The female fox turned out completely opposite. She grew up to be very standoffish, doesn't like anybody to touch her. Like, she'll come and take a treat from you and then like run away. So that's a big thing to consider if you were interested in getting a fox, especially if you're dead set on getting a baby fox from a breeder. Like, you have to know that you're getting this baby fox and not knowing if the baby fox is going to like grow up to like you or not. And you have to be okay with that. If you're going to commit to getting a fox kit, like, you have to know that it might not like you. You might just have a fox, and you have to just respect it for who it is and deal with it. But that's another reason I like to tell people about like adopting from us, like a rescue. The nice thing about adopting an adult fox is you know exactly what their personality is, you know what their quirks are, we can tell you everything about them. Personally, I like doing the rescues, adult rescues, even more than the pup rescues, because I know their personality. Like, a lot of people know Finnegan Fox and know Dixie Fox kind of being SaveAFox's ambassador foxes, and they assume that I raise them from babies, but both of them were adult rescues that I had to get to kind of like tame down and get used to me. But if you work one-on-one with a fox, I think that's the way to do it.
That's really incredible. So what about for the person who thinks they know foxes? Maybe they've taken the time to read the documents on your guys' website about what you should know if you're going to adopt a fox. What other information can you tell people to make sure that they're actually prepared if they're going to be planning on getting a fox? Maybe what kind of places they should look at getting them from? Are there any red flags so that they know they're not supporting a fox mill type operation where they're hoarding and breeding them out? What advice do you have?
The only reputable breeder that I could suggest is Lost River Exotics. I know a few people who have gotten pet foxes from them, and I do follow the owner of that on Facebook. And she is about the animals. She loves the animals. It's really important for, if you're going to buy any animal from a breeder, you want to make sure that you're getting it from somebody that actually cares for the animal and isn't just breeding to make profit. Which unfortunately most breeders in the exotic animal community, that's what they're breeding for. They're breeding for the money. I see so often people selling these animals and not asking people to fill out adoption application, not asking questions. That would be the first red flag. If you're trying to get a baby exotic animal from somebody, and they're just telling you, okay, it's $300, and they don't ask you any more questions, like that right there that's a red flag.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like it. What about if you want to support them, say, kind of like what you're asking people to do, Save a Fox Rescue through social media and stuff? Is there any red flags to look for if you're looking at a group's website or social media?
I would say consistency is a big thing. Being open to the public is a huge thing. Of course, right now we can't be because of COVID, but any rescue I've ever donated to, I personally have either volunteered for them or I went and I saw them. That's kind of my golden rule, or I know somebody that I'm close to that has seen them and like gone out to the rescue and they have like a really good report on it. Uh, because social media can be really tricky. I mean, it's hard to give pointers if you're just basing off social media, because people can lie on social media. They can make pictures look like everything's great and it might not be.
Yeah.
Um, I guess another good thing to look for is like, are they registered nonprofit? Are they 501c3? There are lots of different rules and regulations that have to be followed for you to be able to keep licenses. Like for us, we have so many licenses we have to keep up to date with, and we have like 3 different kind of inspections a year. We have the federal inspection, we have the state inspection, and then we have the city inspection. And pretty much if I were to be like messing up and not doing things right, my permits would get pulled. So if you see a rescue that has a lot of like certifications, a lot of permits, that's something to look for too. I would say like consistency in social media posting. It's harder to lie, I guess, if they're doing like consistent videos where you're actually seeing maybe around the property or around their home or how the animals' cages are being kept and cleaned. And yeah, that's my biggest pointers. Volunteering or visiting the rescue would definitely be number one, because I wouldn't give any money to a rescue that I couldn't see myself. And I think most rescues, even if they're not necessarily open to the public, I think if you were to write them and say, hey, I'm interested in supporting your rescue, but I'd like to come out and like see it, the rescue should be okay with that.
Yeah.
If they're gonna be getting a sponsor or like some money from it, I'm pretty sure they would allow somebody to come out and see it. And if they don't, I'd be a little sketched out.
Yeah. No, you did some really good points. So those are things that Katie had expanded on last week from Beers Etc. We had her on talking about making sure to check permits and stuff like that. For me personally, when it comes to social media, since when the Fox thing hit, that's when Instagram was really big. And there were, like you said, there were a lot of people who were kind of fudging stuff sometimes, and all of a sudden you'd see the news, oh, this local influencer got their animals taken away for abuse or something. My rule usually, since I follow mostly reptile people, is if they don't show the tanks, then I start to wonder what's happening with those animals. Because if they aren't showing the tanks and how the animal's being kept, they might be kept in a little Tupperware for all I know. So.
And it's interesting you say that. My Instagram account actually started off as reptiles. I was definitely I was a reptile girl growing up, so I do have my own like a reptile collection. I have several boas and a couple tarantulas and a gecko, and you know.
What kind of gecko?
So I love my snakes. I'm a big snake girl.
Yeah, what kind of gecko?
A leopard gecko. So he's pretty new actually. He was the surrender. Most of my reptiles are like my own personal collection, so that's like the only animal that I'll actually like seek out and buy, because I'm really into the different color morphs, specifically with boas. I have a sunglow boa, and then I have a Nicaraguan boa, hypo boa, so I don't know, I just love them.
No, I've always loved reptiles too. My fiance, his one big thing when we were negotiating animals is he's like, no snakes, no spiders, but you can have 4 lizards in the house. And I have no limit on size, so we're planning on getting iguanas or tegus once we're actually in a house and not an apartment.
That's so cool. I've always wanted a tegu, but their poops, I don't know.
Oh, they're bad, but I've dealt with some really bad poops from a bull snake before. It was so rancid once, I thought I was going to start puking. I was like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
No, we plan on only doing rescues for reptiles too, and that's why I want to do the larger lizards, because they need a home, and a lot of people get them when they're like this big, and then all of a sudden they're 6 foot long iguana. Like they're, like you said, you're 100% right with baby animals. There's something about getting an adult who already's kind of developed their personality and might just need a little bit of love, and you know how big it is.
I know. I wish I could. It's so hard because so many people want to get babies, and it just sucks because I see it all over right now. People buying babies, and I'm like, come fall, I'm going to be getting these calls. Half of these babies, people are going to try to surrender to me because that's just how it goes every year.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. A lot of times it's young females, like females that are 19, 20, 21. And I guess that's another thing I would try to tell people, like, wait, just wait a few more years. Just wait.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%, because even I started taking care of reptiles at nature centers when I got out of college, and I really loved it. And then all of a sudden I had a friend who needed a home for a gecko. And I'm like, oh, a gecko, that's really small. I can take care of that. But forgetting that I was going to be moving around the country or around the Midwest for jobs as a naturalist. So I had to make sure Kiki was always secure and could move around with me. And I always had a place where I could have her living there. And that was a lot of work, but it worked, and we still have Kiki, and she's doing good. But even just last year, yeah, Kiki the Cresty. She's a little frog butt crested gecko.
That's so cute. I've always wanted a crested, but some of the things I'm just like, I know they're going to get surrendered at some point, so I'm not going to go out seeking for it.
Yeah.
Like a Burmese, I'm waiting for that Burmese surrender, and I'm sure it's going to happen when I get to Florida.
Oh, it will happen when you get to Florida. I've had friends who work down there, and they're like, I say, we'll see what happens with Burmese, because I don't know if they were on the Constricting Snake Act that got passed.
Yeah, because I currently have a reticulated python. Which,
and that was on it.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. No, yeah, even just like you said, you got a fox, and all of a sudden people are like, hey, we need a home for another fox. That was what happened last year. I think I had 3 or 4 different friends of friends saying like, hey, we need a home for our lizards. And we're in a tiny apartment, and I got outvoted every time with my fiance and Logic that we don't have space for more tanks. We're kind of at tank capacity just with Kiki. So I actually managed to find good homes for all of them over the summer. But like you said, yeah, this summer is going to be, we'll see what happens with everything going on.
Yeah. People.
But we love their support. We just wish they would take a little bit more time learning about their things.
Right. The supporters are definitely kind of a different crowd than some of the others that are getting, well, the supporters know what's up.
Yeah, they take the time to learn.
They listen to me enough. It's everyone else that's like, they get a pet fox, and then they find SaveAFox, and they're like, wow, I never heard of you. Take our fox, please. I'm like, oh, I wish you would have heard of us like a couple months ago.
But impulse buys, it shouldn't be able to be an impulse buy for an exotic pet. So this is really good, because we're leading into the next question. The exotic pet trade is known for having a lot of issues. What are some of the issues that people might not know typically when it comes to foxes that they can help be a supporter of helping end these issues instead of contributing to them?
To me, I feel like the biggest issue is everybody has expectations of, like, when you get an exotic animal, and it doesn't even matter what it is, but people have this expectation of their mind of cat or dog. Like, they expect them to live up to a domestic animal's like behaviors, like a cat or dog. Like, cats and dogs are the only truly domesticated animals. Like, dogs way more so than cats, and you're not going to get anything that's going to like live up to the expectation of a dog, because it's not a dog. And that's what I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, we have people that come out here to see the foxes because they're interested in adopting, and I'm always super welcoming to anybody that's interested in adopting that wants to come see it first, because that's kind of like my little rules, like try to convince people out of it first and then see if they still want it. So people come out here and they're like, oh my gosh, it smells so bad. Like, foxes have a very strong odor, very, very pungent, and they don't potty train. and they're very destructive. And you know, people be like, oh, I thought they were more like a dog because I see people post pictures, but there's only so much information that you can gather from looking at a cute picture.
No, I was just thinking in my head, thank you, Instagram. Because Instagram,
Right.
I love it. It's wonderful, but it really, I do feel like it did in some ways contribute to a lot of people getting exotics who weren't quite ready to own an exotic animal. I mean, before I got Kiki, I've been
Right.
working with exotic animals for, I think, like maybe 5 years. So I've been working with different reptiles and snakes and tarantulas, and crested gecko was like on the top of my list of an animal I'd like to have. I knew they were nocturnal. I knew that they needed a heat lamp. I knew that I needed to make sure they had enough calcium in their diet. You know, I had already researched everything. So when Kiki got plopped on my lap, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to be your forever home. I know you will be,
Aw.
you'll live till 15. Yeah, it's a little baby. Yeah, I say,
I say cute.
yeah, no, I don't know, she was from someone who went to the pet store, got an animal, they weren't ready for it, their cat would break into the tank. They had 2 cresteds originally, but one died from the cat breaking into the tank and harassing them, so hence why she's a frog butt. So
Yeah. Another thing that bothers me too, and we get messages like this way more than I wish we did, but like, hey, it's my daughter's 7th birthday. I want to get her a fox. I wish people would stop buying animals as gifts for their young kids because it doesn't work out. Definitely wait until your kid is at least old enough and every kid is different. Some kids are more responsible at a young age, but
no.
I don't even know what to say there.
But it's coming from a tradition of getting kids a cat or a dog. It's just animals have expanded. But my parents' rule growing up always was you need to do the research before you get it. And even then, they would sometimes outvote us. Like, I rescued, the only thing I ever got to keep was a crayfish that I rescued out of a stream because it had a big gash in its side. And I convinced my parents, because I had taken care of crayfish the year before at our school.
I don't know. I mean, I think before anybody makes that decision that they want to get a specific type of animal, like please find a rescue first that works with that animal. And I'm not even talking like specifically foxes. If you're interested in getting, whether it's like a reptile or a fox or a raccoon or the wolf dog or something, find a rescue first that you can go and you can see them and you can ask like questions in person if you're really that interested and you really want to do it. And I'm not the type of person to say either like I can do this, nobody else can. No, I think there are people out there that can definitely handle this, but it is far and few in between. So just do your research first, find people that work with the animals you're interested in, try to talk to them, try to meet the animals so that you can get experience and see if it's something that you still want.
Things that people can do so they aren't contributing to the cruelty that animals experience as far as the exotic captive animal trade. And this is as in social media accounts, we talked a little bit about that, but maybe also policies that they should support in their community or ways of helping support the facilities that they know are doing a really good job.
I mean, the first thing is we want there to be less exotic animal breeders. There shouldn't be so much of that going on, especially because most of them are not good. So if you want to get an exotic animal, I please push you to try to adopt one from a rescue rather than get one from a breeder, because we do want to try to kind of like get away from that so there isn't so much of that going on. Because just think of all the animals that are out there that people bought from breeders that now don't have a home. Like those are the animals we want to try to help. So I mean that's one thing. And then trying to volunteer or support your local animal rescue near you, that can help too. So I don't know, that's a tricky question, just because there's like, it's hard.
There's a lot. Like even I myself, sometimes I need to stop myself before I share a cute animal video to be like, okay, before I share this, let's make sure whoever shared it is either a rescue or a sanctuary, and the video's doing maybe a little bit more than just, hey, look at this cute sugar glider eating food. That maybe there's some information in the link saying, sugar gliders don't make good pets, people. Please leave them alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had sugar gliders too. They're probably my first exotic, like pet exotic mammal. And then there was a huge, I think it was around the same time that foxes started getting big, but sugar gliders got really big out of nowhere. And then there was just so many that needed homes, and those things have such specialized diets. And I saw so many ones that were coming to me that they were being fed like store-bought food.
Oh my
And
gosh.
with sugar gliders specifically, like you have to make their food fresh like every night. Like you can't buy sugar glider food in the store. So
No kidding. No, yeah, say that that is processed food for animals is a big no-no for most exotics.
right. Right. Yeah, that's another big thing. So just because you can buy food for your exotic pet in the pet store doesn't mean it's healthy. Always make sure to research like brands that you're feeding your food or brands that you're feeding your animal, because I mean there's even a lot of cat and dog food brands out there that should I don't know why that's even like legal for them to sell them when the first food ingredient is like cornstarch or something. So just make sure to research your animal's diet and then look at the labels on the food that you're purchasing, because just because you're purchasing food for that specific animal and it's being sold in a pet store does not mean that it's healthy for that animal. So
Oh yeah.
lots of diet research before getting anything.
Yeah, you are speaking my language right now. I did one of my first EcoElsa videos I did on getting a classroom pet was talking about the 5 things people needed to know before getting one. And it was like things like checking the diet. Are they going to be able to provide it food? Because a lot of snakes don't only eat dead mice. Some of them are super picky and they need to have a live mouse. And if you're not okay with that, you probably shouldn't get a snake. At least not one that's yeah.
And like I have chinchillas too, and a lot of people don't know that chinchillas, like their diet has to be very, very plain. Like they shouldn't be getting like fruits and stuff like that. And a lot of their foods that you can buy in the pet store has like all these chunks of like nuts and fruits and these things that look fun. Like you look at the bag and like, oh look, that looks like something that my chinchilla would enjoy, and your chinchilla might enjoy it, but just because they like the food doesn't mean it's healthy. So it's a huge thing to make sure to research the diet of your animals like extensively before getting them.
Yeah.
And it also, don't listen to the ones that are selling the food at the pet stores, because they're trying to sell the food. So definitely do your own research, not just go into the pet store and ask for people. They're not professionals.
Say they're marketing the food to the human, not to the animal in that case.
Right.
And like you were saying about the breeders too, sorry to go back to that. I 100% agree with that. I can't tell you how many times I've whined and complained to Andrew about, if only there was a way that they could regulate breeders, like maybe you can only breed animals if you have a permit. So then we cut down on the number, but people are still able to get them, and maybe they're a little bit more rare.
The most frustrating thing for me, because for the foxes at least, like you do need a permit to breed and sell foxes through the USDA, but USDA doesn't regulate and they don't care who the person is selling to. I think that needs to be way more regulated, because I've already seen in like Facebook Marketplace, like in Minnesota, somebody that has a permit that has a license to sell foxes, and they're just selling first come first serve. Like there needs to be more regulations that put something in place as to like where the animals are going. Like
plus it would only help all animals. It would help more horses and dogs and cats and things too.
Yeah, because it isn't just about, I'm an advocate for all animals, so I just think lots of things need to change. We can only do so much, but we're trying.
You say we're all trying. I mean, that's the thing Katie had talked about too from Bears Etc. is a lot of facilities like you, Mikayla, you're basically advocating for some policies that means a lot of rescues are going to have a harder time having animals, which is okay, because then there's more animals in good homes and fewer animals in need.
Right. Yep. Completely agree. And if somebody wants to be a rescue and they really, really mean it, they're going to take all of those steps that they need to be able to become like a running, functioning rescue. So to me, like the more rules, the better.
So Mikayla, as we're wrapping up here, what are some things that people can do and talk with their policymakers about when it regards to exotic animals and making sure we're maybe better regulating them, maybe making sure there's better care for the animals? Do you have any ideas or recommendations from your experience?
I mean, I definitely think there should be more regulation or some sort of rule, like, because we have adoption applications, and that isn't something that anybody told us to do. Like, the state didn't care, the federal licensing didn't care, the county didn't care. Like, us doing adoption applications, making sure people can have these animals illegally, making sure they send pictures of like their enclosure, that they're answering like a series of questions. And our adoption applications are public, so anybody, or not public as in you can't see what other people are filling out, but like anybody could go on our website and see the questions we're asking. So I'd like to see more rescues or places, or not even just rescues, like breeders too, to do that, to do adoption applications, or for there to be a rule set in place that there has to be adoption applications and people have to qualify and meet those standards, because otherwise the likelihood of that animal getting like rehomed is so much higher.
Once again, thank you for being on here today. It's been a pleasure talking with you and learning more about SaveAFox Rescue, as well as the exotic pet trade from your experience, especially specifically with fox species. For everyone who's watching this, remember, we're going to have all the links down below in the description. So any of the previous videos I mentioned about getting a classroom pet, about bears, etc., as well as we'll have links to SaveAFox Rescue and all the great stuff they're doing, their different social media accounts. So make sure to check that out below and follow them and help support them. Mikayla, is there anything else you'd want to add that people should be keeping in mind for the future of SaveAFox Rescue, or anything that they can do right now to help you guys out?
Nope, I just want to thank you for doing this interview, because this will be a good educational thing to throw out there for people. And also, huge shout out to all of my followers and fans, because without you guys, SaveAFox Rescue wouldn't be possible. So I just want to thank everybody who follows and supports us, and you can just continue to do so by sharing and liking and donating if you can.
Okay. Well, thank you again so much. So as always, everyone, make sure you're being safe, you're learning lots, you're having fun, and you're getting outdoors as safely as possible. We hope to see you guys outside again real soon when EcoElsa is able to start up our programs again. So make sure to check out our website, EcoElsa.com, link below in the description as well. As well as our Etsy page is still running, so if you're looking for some cool nature arts in Minnesota, Wisconsin, or also just some cool naturalist art and jokes, make sure to check that out below in the description as well. So you guys all have a great rest of your week. Bye!